David Vizard here. You guys are watching PowerTech 10. In this edition, we're going to do what we have done in previous years, in as much as we're going to cover what we've achieved this year, but more importantly, what we're going to focus on for 2025. Now, the first thing I need to say here is that 2024 has gone pretty well due to the help I've had from both Andy and Brian. That's our two other channels. We have three now. If you noticed, Brian's channel is labeled the NASCAR Tech Pirate. That's about what it is. If you look at the intro in his channel, you'll find that he's had a lot of NASCAR wins, so now he's revealing what it takes to get there, or that's the general theme. Anyway, Andy is going to continue his combination of a lot of soft and medium tech and some hard tech, plus historic stuff, and of course the racetrack stuff that we're doing. Now let's get on to where we're going to go for next year. Well, first off, I have to say there's a big project in hand that we are going to need to raise probably about $30,000 for. And what we're going to do for that is focus on selling as many redundant parts as we can. And boy, I've got a lot of those. So one way or another, we need to raise this money by June next year. Once we get on the roll with this and we start getting somewhere, I will reveal what it's for, and you're all gonna go, hooray, that's what we wanted. Guarantee it. Anyway, let's get back to what I'm doing currently. Gonna finish this damn thing off. I've talked to you about it before. Here's the start of it, and that's gonna go in like this. This is just a dummy one, and we're going to make that scoop functional. Unfortunately, I don't have any video of it because I had to drive a car and would have had to take pictures of the car behind me showing the front end. But we did do some tuft, i.e. bits of cotton supported in various positions around the grill to check which way the air approaches the grill. By the time it gets to the grill, it is not going straight in like that. If you can imagine the front of the grill like this, it comes in and across like that, and up or down. So a hole here that's facing straight forward is receiving air like this. That's going to subtract some energy from it. So we're going to make a setup that's got a curve like this so that it actually gets the air at an angle. I'll show you how all that's done and how we installed it. Next on the list are Rafter cylinder heads to do. I've got to finish Andy's mod motor heads. They are, one I've done is showing up really good, and I've got to get the other one done. I've started on it, but my problem is that physical work, other than sitting down in this chair now, at my age and in my health condition, I'm lucky if I can get 2 hours of physical work in a day. And I'm lucky if I can get 4 hours of any type of work in a day without it totally exhausting myself. The effects of my brain surgery are definitely showing effects now. I had as many of you will know, one of my reasons for entering the Camshaft shootout was to get more data points. Well, we got some data points on a pretty good basis, and so I had to develop a curve for them. Now I usually use a polynomial equation for this, and I had enough data to get a fairly good curve going from peak power at about 4,500 RPM up to peak powers in the region of 8,000. And I got a formula for the curve, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what the hell do I do next? Now, 10 years ago, I'd have just gone ahead and done it. But I looked at that equation for ages and I could not think what I was supposed to do with it. So, called up Stan, told him what the situation was, and bless his cotton socks, Stan came up with a solution. Right, that's where we're at. Right now, the formula that is in our CAM program, that's Torque Master, is showing the right curve. It's just showing it's deformed, but we have the correction. It's a very, very simple correction. So hopefully by next week I'll be doing a video on where we're at with that program, and I can see that we've cracked the problem as far as the exhaust advance is concerned. So that's good. Now the next thing on the agenda is the Mustang. Most of you had a look at episode 158, and I'm showing various things there, like the intercooler being done and what it did to the performance and that. But what to do next? Well, I decided it was going to be the exhaust system next, because I didn't like the sound of the stock exhaust system. Now here's the deal. I spent a lot of time researching these exhausts on the internet, sounds of other people's that they had, power curves where I could find them, etc., etc. Then I thought, well, I need to look at something here that's affordable, because some of them were expensive. Now, I'm not saying they were overpriced. What I'm saying was they were expensive. So I ended up buying an exhaust system, and we'll go into that. But here's the deal. The so-called high flow cat on it flowed less flow than the stock converter. So I'm thinking this is not a good idea. So I'm just wondering how many people with Ecoboost Mustangs have installed a downpipe which makes less power than the one they had on stock. Anyway, I'm going to look at the exhaust system, everything from the flow of the stock one, the flow of the mufflers, etc., right through, and tell you where you're getting ripped off. Ripped off might be somewhat of an exaggerated claim there. Where you're not getting a good deal because you're buying something it's good, but it's not as good as a stock one. And then talk about the noise and things like this. And you know, I've got some experience designing mufflers, and I can see that there's a lot of mufflers out there need some, how shall I say, slicker science put into them. But we'll go into that. The other thing is again on the Mustang, we're going to install water injection on that. A very slick setup. We are going to look at the aerodynamics. In fact, I think my next video is probably going to be installing a functional spoiler on the back. Other than that, it's a question of deciding whether we should be spending money on the suspension, wheels and tires and brakes, or just go the whole hog, and instead of doing just a bit at a time, get one of these, and I'm quoting an example here, NX2 turbos, which are supposed to add 100 horsepower, and bolt that on. However, I talked to Andy about this, and since we are predominantly drag racing here, and since the power aspect is most popular aspect to deal with, we've decided that we are going to go with an aftermarket turbo that really is supposedly going to pump up the power a lot. That's going to be something we're going to do. We'll probably purchase that right after Christmas. It's going to cost us well over $2,000, but hey, that's it. Also, I'm going to finish off the turbo I'm doing for Greg at Greg's Automobiles and Aircrafts, his YouTube channel. Go and see that. Some great aircraft videos there. And he's going to be doing the chassis dyno testing for any parts that I can have him test instead of me, right? Because getting out of the house is just a nightmare. I think we're going to be up to 450 horsepower pretty quick at the wheels. And I think we will have done it in the least expensive way. Remember, the intercooler and the cold air box that I showed you how to do, that is functioning far better than any other tests out there. I mean, way better. We're talking to the tune of maybe 50 or 60 horsepower better. And it's all in foot-pounds, which means you just feel like you've got a big engine. If you want to know where that is, then just go back a few editions on PowerTech 10 and you'll find the videos for the cold air box. I think that was a 2 or 3 part one, and episode 158 for the intercooler. The first job I've got to do before we can put on the new turbo is to finish porting a Polyquad head. I get people keep on saying, can't wait for the Polyquad head. Folks, nor can I, but I keep getting constricted by what I can manage to do for other things. So please bear with me. I'm trying to get it all done. One of my more immediate jobs was to install a spoiler on the rear end of the car, because that's where spoilers normally go. Well, you would think that was an easy job, but no. If you're going to do the job and achieve some kind of purpose out of it, there's more to it than meets the eye. But we managed to have several things which stalled us out for probably a month on this. I'll show you here. Now just note the temperature in here. There's a reason for that. Let me just swing around, and here is the reason. Let's back off there so you can see what it is. It's the spoiler. Here's some of the heating that I've got in here, as well as that heater unit I've just showed you, plus a radiator here. Now I can tell you, putting a spoiler on this time of the year simply does not make sense, and the price we're paying for it is we're simply having to stoke up the workshop temperature to get the temperature we want. Now you would think having the workshop at 81 degrees, or that wall furnace there at 81 degrees, we would have the bodywork up to temperature pretty soon. But no, it's been heating up for 2 days now, and here's our temperature. We've only just got to the required 72. The bodywork consistently runs at way lower temperature than the shop air runs. Takes a long time to heat up the bulk of a car. Right, here we are, the farthest from the heaters. Only 69.8. The car has been in the workshop now as much as 2 days. As part of our effort to get cash for our so far secret project here, we're going to have a regular sale of parts. Not too many parts per video episode, just 2 or 3 parts that we think will sell quickly so that we don't have to spend time selling stuff. Now, here's an example. I've got this camshaft here for a small block Chevy. Now, it's a crane cam. The nearest price we could get from it from Summit was $505. I originally priced this out with a so-called Christmas sale at $350, so it's a big discount. But I tell you what, if anybody wants it now, $250, that's half price. Let me give you the specs. Basically, it's a moderate race cam for a small block Chevy. It will work fine in a 383 to 406. It will be okay in those two engines with somewhere around about 10.5, 11 to 1. Now let me read the spec of the cam out. First off, this is going to call for some glasses here. Let's put glasses on. The advertised duration, it's a hydraulic roller by the way, is 297,301. The duration at 50 is 268, 272. So you can see it's a pretty big cam. With a 1.6 ratio rocker, the lift will be somewhere in the region of, let me see, it's probably on this side here. It's quite big lift. It's somewhere in the upper 600s on there. And like I said, it's a hydraulic roller. Brand new, never been used, 250. Anyway, enough of that. I've also got a whole load of cylinder heads as well. I'm going to talk about one or two of them for sale in this episode here. But let me have a look and show you just how many heads I've got. Here we go, heads and manifolds. Now this might look like a lot of heads. It's not the only ones I have. There's all these heads here as well. And you can't quite see them, some more behind there. Now, where am I at the moment? Let me stand back here. This is the new workshop that I have to finish off. I'm giving you a quick guided tour of the mess it's in at the moment. Being used for storing good stuff and junk. But on that side there will be a grinding bench. There's a bench behind there. The flow bench, I'm reducing my content to just one flow bench. Will go there and another bench here. And it's all got extractor air in here. Been working on this for a while. Not quite done yet. One of my more immediate jobs was to install a spoiler on the rear end of the car, because that's where spoilers normally go. Well, you would think that was an easy job, but no, if you're going to do the job and achieve some kind of purpose out of it, there's more to it than meets the eye. But we managed to have several things which stalled us out for probably a month on this. I'll show you here. Well, the first thing I had to decide whether I was going to use a wing or a spoiler. Now, you could fall into the trap of thinking that a wing is actually a glorified high-tech spoiler. That may be the case to a very limited extent, but essentially they function in two different ways. Now, some of those wings were not only expensive, but I had no idea whether they worked or not, or even could work. Oh, I'm sure they worked to some extent, but there's always that thing called the lift to drag ratio. In our case, the downforce to drag. So what I did here is I started researching spoilers, easy to fit and far less expensive spoilers. First place I started was looking to see what American Muscle had. Now, if you haven't tried using American Muscle, thoroughly recommend it. I've used them now for over a year, well, pretty much since I've had my Mustang, and they've always looked after me well. Now, I don't get any special treatment. I pay the same price as you do, so nothing that I get is unobtainable to you guys. Now, look through all the spoilers. There's got to be 101 of them. So, more research here. I started to look through and check out what professional and semi-professional racers were using. You know, those guys who are out on the track winning. Also, from my contact, who, like I said, the most successful, highest selling salesman for Roush. He's the Roush dealer here at Tyndall Ford in Gastonia, just next to Charlotte. Now, I got the comment from him that pretty much all of the aerodynamic stuff that Roush uses, and pretty much the same for Carroll Shelby. So, with the information I could get from Ford and what I could get from Shelby and Roush, I settled on the 350 GT spoiler. Why? Because it looked nice, and if I remember the numbers rightly, it's supposed to give 120 pounds of downforce at 100 miles an hour, something like that. But anyway, it was a spoiler that had been wind tunnel tested. So that's the one I got. Now this should tell you one thing. I'm looking for performance before I look for style, cosmetics, etc. I need something that works, not something that looks pretty. Now, where to go from here? Well, another reason that I liked the spoiler, the Ford 350 GT spoiler that I got, was it's a glue-on thing, and I thought that would be good. Now, I did some talking with my American Muscle guy, and he said, yes, it is glue-on, and yes, you can do it at home, but he said you do need to have some weight on it to get it to stick initially. So he said it's definitely a two-man job, and if it's two big guys, that's all the better. Right, well, oh, and the other thing is, had to be at 72 degrees. Well, I went for this spoiler, and I thought, there we go, it's stick on, I got the two guys. Guess what? The moment it arrived, we had cold weather. Now, here's the other thing that I found out. Although the workshop may see 72 degrees almost continually, everything in it is cooler. I use the same deal to check the temperatures of various things, but I found that the car actually was slightly, was about 8 degrees cooler generally than the air in the workshop. And to get it up to temperature, and it slowly crept up, I'd have to leave it in there for like 2 or 3 weeks. So, next thing, get a good big heater, turn the electric heating up, turn up the gas heating, don't take the car out, and in spite of that, it took me 2.5 days to get this warmed. That was another deal. Then, it turned out that getting my guy, Steve from Hometown Auto, who was going to help me do this, to fit in the time to do it, took another week. He was right on time. He said when he was going to come, and that's when he did. So, one thing after another led to a delay. And believe it or not, that delay, the delays kept moving along the calendar, to eventually, by the time it was the time to glue it on, was nearly a month after I received it. But anyway, I'll tell you all about that when I get to it. Now, back to the wing and the spoiler. I'm going to show you the difference between those two. And I think that I went for the spoiler. Not only was it more convenient, cheaper, but also it's a little less flamboyant. The wing is, well, it seems a bit out of place on the street, because who's ever going to go fast enough to fully utilize that wing? Whereas the spoiler, yeah, sure, it's there. I'm not going to go fast enough on the road to utilize it, but it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. It's just there. It doesn't jump out and get you right in the face. I really don't know how many of you are aware of this, but many years ago, yes, many years ago, I did a project with the now defunct British Leyland. They're the company, the British company that made the original Mini. And the exercise was to see if I could drive around America in the January, February, March time scale, and that would simulate all the different weathers we had in England for a year. Drive around America with a full complement of passengers and luggage, drive at highway speeds and get 50 to the gallon. Well, we didn't quite make it, 49.88 to the gallon. 1 gallon less than we would have made the target. However, that is doing road tests on the car and driving through snowbanks and things like this, driving 50 miles on run flat tires, all things that you don't do in a fuel economy test. So I think we did pretty good. But the point I want to raise here is I'm getting a lot of people say, why did I pick the 4-cylinder Mustang? Simple, 32 miles per gallon highway. Now here it is, I'm making way more power than the GT, which does about 19 to the gallon on the highway, and I'm still getting over 30 to the gallon. Not too shabby. Hasn't been tuned yet. We will get it back to 32 to the gallon, if not better than that. And that's cruising at 65, 70 miles an hour on the freeway. Now, talking about fuel mileage, one of the things that I'm hearing from time to time is people who do these fuel mileage things, and they're saying, well, we get 100 miles per gallon from our V8 engines. You know what? Every time I ask one of them to bring their truck over and show me how they drive on the freeway for 25 miles on a quarter of a gallon of fuel, I've been putting that challenge out now for 40 years. Do you know, not one has come up to show me how it's done. Now, that said, I'm going to explain to you in an upcoming issue, a big one, how getting mileage is not an easy thing. It's sometimes as hard, if not harder, than getting horsepower. However, I am going to give you all the information required to get really good gas mileage, and it's coming straight from me without having a stop between me and you. So I've experienced this personally, and my efforts at doing mileage were well documented in about 7 editions of one of England's biggest selling magazines. So there's no BS there. They did the tests, not me. Now, this is coming under the heading of the 100 mile per gallon carburetor. Does it exist or doesn't it? I'm going to look into that and give you the definitive answer. Now, there will be one issue here where you will need to know what's going on. I'm going to introduce it, the series that is, but every one of those episodes of the series from there on, after the introduction, will be out to subscribers only. So if you want to find out the truth about whether or not the 100 mile per gallon carburetor exists or not, you've got to subscribe. It shouldn't take much. You just go beep, like, beep, subscribe. Now, that will be a lot easier than me having actually to do the work. But it's like everything. Right now, I'm trying to get subscribers because that pays more money on the YouTube channel, and we need that money to do this project that I'm secretly, well, I'll let you know about it next year. Right, next year's only a short way away. So, that's another thing. Now here's another project which is getting ready for the dyno. We're not far away. The purpose of this is to test some cylinder head modifications and to test 3 cams on different lobe centerline angles to show you how this engine or rather, let's put this around the other way. My Chevy computations will prove to produce the same results as this engine does on the dyno. In other words, I'm going to calculate this, what would be the optimum lobe centerline angle, and then we'll show which one is the correct lobe centerline angle for this combination on the dyno. You'll find my prediction will be within about a degree, which is a lot better than you get from the cam companies, by the way. So here we go. I'm just bolting down the cylinder heads on this. I will be putting an intake manifold on, a 2-plane intake manifold, and a vacuum secondary carburetor, probably something in the 750 range. Right, now on the stock heads, I expect this motor to make probably in the region of 350 horsepower. You'll notice I've got a Comp Cams adjustable drive gear on there. That's so it can optimize the lobe center line every time. So that's how we test cams. Everyone will have optimized fuel, optimized advanced retard, and optimized ignition timing, right? So it will be a very thorough test, and we're going to be doing it on a really slick dyno. We will actually be making introductions to the dyno when we test this. Something else that I'm enjoying doing here is an engine life deal using high-grade oils. And I'm doing this in conjunction with Lake Speed. I'm making full use of his oil diagnostic service. That's going to be a good one. It's only going to be a short one, but I'm going to show you what it takes to make your engine last well over 500,000 miles on the street for your normal day-to-day transport, and keeping it running in top notch. Well, I'm getting to the end of my more immediate list here, so thank you for your patience up to now, but a couple more things. First off, up to the first half of this year, I'm going to be focusing on getting the wheel and tire situation sorted out for road course events. And of course, I want to put on the tire and wheel assembly which will give me the most grip consistent with the type of tire that I intend to use, i.e. whether it be real race rubber, track day rubber, or high performance summer grade rubber, whatever. Now, the wheels I have on there, and I'm real pleased with them, are only 9.5 inches wide. They're light and 9.5 inches by 18. And it looks like the brakes, which need a 19-inch wheel normally, will go inside these with room to spare, because the aluminum, it's spun aluminum, not cast. Now, I hopefully can get a wheel of the same manufacturer, same style, in 10.5. That I looked through, they don't do an 11-inch, which is what I would prefer. But I need to know if the tire and wheel I'm going to use will fit. Yes, sure, I could check up with another 2.3 Mustang Ecoboost user who's got wide wheels on to find out if they fit. Well, I do have a friend of mine who's got 11-inch wheels on his car, 11-inch wide by 18, and a 315 50 series tire, or sorry, a 315 30 series tire. Now, that's fine if you've just got a Mustang like I've got, but what if you've got a car which I'm not dealing with here? Well, here is a device, right? You see it, let me come back. It's a pity it's on a black background. What it does is this piece bolts to the wheel. You adjust this piece to your wheel diameter. It's got the wheel diameters here, and you adjust this here and here so that you're approaching your rib width here, and then you cut out a form, cross-sectional form of your tire, clip it to this here, right, so that the rim of your tire rests on there. Then you put this onto the wheel. You put this on to the hub, take the existing wheel off, put this onto the hub, and off you go. But there is a little snag with it which I want to talk about, but I'll tell you there. Now, those of you who have been following my Ecoboost modifications here will realize that I got into this deal on the entry-level 2.3 Ecoboost. This means no fancy fully bucketed seats, no fancy steering wheel, no manual shifting of the gears, a lot of things. I am building the car I want rather than the one I had to accept, and I'm difficult to please. Now, one of the things that I did want to change was that the stock regular seats in the basic entry-level Ecoboost are only slightly bucketed, and if you go around corners fast, they don't hold you as much as you or I may like. So I could have changed them out. In fact, I could save £100 by changing them out for some Corbeau seats, race style seats. But here's the problem. I need the seat all the way back and down to be able to get in the car, and then quite a long way forward and up to be able to drive it. So each time I get in, I have to move that seat. Can't do that. I need electric seats. So the question is how can I bucket them or make them more bucketed than they already are without getting into some deep and disastrous scheme of reupholstering them and rebuilding. Well, I'll show you that, and it's not going to cost much. You can do the two front seats for under probably 80 bucks and increase the bucketing on them by about doubling it. So if you're my build, that is 175 pounds and 5'10", you will fit very snugly into the stock seats. So I'll show you how to do that. And the other thing is I like a big steering wheel grip, and I mean big. Now, I've temporarily just installed the steering wheel cover, and it's okay. Makes it, the steering wheel looks nicer with the color on it, and I'll show you that. But I want a custom steering wheel. Have you seen how much steering wheels are for these Ecoboost Mustangs or any modern car? Astronomical, $500 odd. Well, I'm not going to pay $500, and I need all the amenities on the steering wheel. So I have decided that I am going to explore a simple way of getting a custom steering wheel with a big grip on it. Trust me, most steering wheels are too small. You want a big grip, and I've experimented with this. I'll show you how to do that, probably for only around about 100 bucks. With that, I will close this edition of PowerTech 10. Now, it's very nearly 2025. Look out, the next one will be probably on head bolts and a new project we've just started. So thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys early next year.